Hi, everyone. I'm Veronica Theodoro, and this is the House of Lou podcast. This episode of House of Lou is sponsored by Carbic Kitchen and Bath. Today, I'm interviewing Shelly Donahoe. Shelly is the owner of the Magic Chef Mansion in the landmark Compton Hill Reservoir Square neighborhood, where she's lived for 34 years. Before that, Shelly lived in another historic house on Longfellow in Compton Heights from 1982 until 1990. Shelly's life work has been the painstaking restoration and preservation of a 12,000 square foot house designed in a French Renaissance revival style. It's almost impossible to drive by the house and not want to get a closer look. So today, we're going to get all the details from Shelly about the history of the house, the renovation, and what it's like to live and care for it. The mansion was built in 1908 and designed by architect Ernst Janssen for Charles Stockstrom, founder of Quick Meal Stove Company, later Magic Chef. As you can imagine, it's rare that Shelly isn't in the midst of a house project. And when I was there last month, the carriage house was getting a new red slate roof. Last night, I was interviewed by Erin Joy at a networking event at Henry Kitchen and Bath and De Pere. Erin is a business consultant and executive coach who works quite a bit with interior designers and other entrepreneurs in St. Louis. And when she asked me to be a part of this panel, immediately said yes, but the truth is I don't often get asked to talk about my own creative process and my career and my inspirations. So this was really a special opportunity for me. And it really gave me some time to reflect on why I do things the way I do. So thanks so much, Erin, for the invitation. And thank you to all of the designers and creatives who showed up. It really was a lot of fun for me. On the home front, my dining room is almost done. Those of you who follow me on my newsletter know that I have been working with a designer to redo that room, and I just can't believe we're almost there. The curtain rods have finally arrived. The curtains themselves, the curtain panels, have been sewn, and they're going to be installed tomorrow. The rug will be delivered in a week. So it's a super exciting time for me, and I feel like it's Christmas in the springtime. Before we get started with my interview with Shelly, I just wanted to mention this new app that I've discovered. It's called Hoopla. Essentially, Hoopla allows you to download audiobooks, ebooks, music, movies, etc., from your public library. And so, of course, it's all free. So this app is a real game changer for someone like me who loves to read, but doesn't always have the time to actually read a book, right? So I have to end up listening to a lot of books on tape, so to speak. Anyway, Hoopla just gives me access to my library on my telephone. So I wanted to make sure I mentioned that app to all of you who are big readers as well. And in case you're curious, I'm currently listening to the Clive Davis autobiography, The Soundtrack of My Life, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. We'll be right back. This episode of House of Lou is sponsored by Carbic Kitchen and Bath. Whether you want a new kitchen, laundry room, or children's nursery, Carbic Kitchen and Bath can handle it all. From design and construction to interiors, Carbic serves as a one-stop shop for all the essentials needed to create spaces that are #nothingordinary. For those seeking to renovate or build, schedule a free design consultation today by visiting carbic.com/project-consultation. And now let's get to my interview with Shelly Donahoe. Hi, Shelly.
Well, hi, Veronica.
So nice to see you.
Good to see you.
The last time we were together was what, like maybe a month ago or so, 3 weeks ago?
Something like that.
And you were giving me a tour of your beautiful home. And we've written about your house on several occasions, but believe it or not, I had never visited. So that was such a treat for me to see your home and spend 2+ hours with you. I'm curious to know how people react when you tell them where you live or you invite them over for the first time.
Well, I think surprise would be a good word. If I'm out working in the yard and somebody's walking by, like by the fence, and they say, well, who lives there, And if I say, well, I do, I mean, I look like a hired hand,
Do you ever get people who just ring you up from outside wanting to see what the house is all about?
That does happen. Not a whole lot.
So take us back to the beginning. Your previous house was just around the corner on Longfellow in Compton Heights. How and why did you decide to buy the Magic Chef Mansion? What were you doing at the time? What led you on this journey?
First of all, when I lived on Longfellow, Ernst Janssen was the architect of that house, which is the architect of my current house. He was just fabulous architect and made fairy tale looking buildings. And the house that we lived in, I was married at the time, was beautiful. It was plenty big. There was no reason to move. We had done a lot to it, but this Russell place just called me, and I never thought I would own it. And I just fell in love with the architecture.
And so what was the process of buying the house like? Obviously someone was living in the home at the time. I imagine the house was on the market.
It was on the market. Charles Stockstrom had it built, and his daughter, Ada Omeyer, lived there up until 1990. So it was in the family up until then. And she died, and then it hit the market. So it was on the market for maybe 3 months or 4 months. We bought it.
And we should say that Charles Stockstrom was the founder of the quick meal stove company.
Right.
Which later became Magic Chef.
Yes.
And so that's who the home was built for originally in 1908.
Correct.
So the house was in disrepair, though. Tell me a little bit about the condition of the home when you purchased it.
Well, everything leaked. I mean, even the electricity was leaking.
Oh, my God.
I mean, the roof leaked, the plumbing leaked, the duct pointing was leaking. So, you want to make a house watertight. That's your first goal. So it needed everything, but it was level and plumb. We didn't do a building inspection on it, because not that we know it all, we don't, but we realized it needed everything, so why bother getting a building inspection? If it was leaning, I wouldn't have bought it.
So the structure itself looked solid.
Yes.
But perhaps like the guts of the house all needed to be updated.
Right.
You were working in real estate at the time. Did you stop working as an agent and dedicate yourself fully to the home? Or how did you go about organizing this massive project that you had undertaken?
Right. Well, we kind of had a 3-year plan, which I'm now 34 years into. But I was chasing my 2.5-year-old son around the house at the time, so I didn't do much real estate and dealing with contractors and, stuff happening. But we started with the roof.
Okay.
Because it was actively leaking, and we started with asbestos removal in the basement. So we couldn't come in the house for a week while they were removing that stuff.
Oh.
So, and then we got into plumbing and heating and cooling, and it never had central air. And we put in new boilers. We updated electric to 400 amps. It still has knob and tube.
Sure. A little bit somewhere. Yeah.
Everywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it's got new circuits everywhere too.
Okay.
So, and anyway, just everything like the driveway, tuck pointing, cleaning of the outside of the house, fencing, landscaping.
And what was your state of mind at the time when you're going through all of these renovations and projects? Did you ever stand back and say, "Oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into?"
Which every day. Couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. It took a while for that light to appear. But I don't know, you just keep going. And when you see progress, I think it's very encouraging.
And it sounds like you had a lot of cheerleaders, for lack of a better word, within the neighborhood, right? People who would suggest sources or contractors or workers for particular projects in the house. Tell us a little bit about how you found those people and if you were able to find the help that you needed in St. Louis.
Oh, yeah, everybody was local. And like the roofer, Vince Gray, Plate and Tile, we used them on our last house. And they're fabulous. And I've Ralph Zucchi is a really good carpenter, and he's done a lot of carpentry things. He lives right around the corner. And Eric Erickson, also very talented. He's a neighbor. Hired him to do a lot. And Randy Fritchley is fabulous. And I mean, there's others, but everybody was kind of right around the corner in a way.
That's pretty cool because they're all working on probably their historic homes, their
Right.
old houses. Yes.
Right.
And tell us the story about the furniture. The house is furnished with a lot of the original pieces, but you had to do some sleuthing in order to find them again. Tell us that story.
Okay. Well, they sold everything at auction at Selkirk's in 1990, and I went to the auction. It was a week-long auction. I didn't know at the time I was going to own the house.
Oh my God.
But I went to every day and watched everything sell. And I thought, well, that's not going to work in my other house. And that's not going to work in my other house. Anyway, so everything sold. Bought a few things, but then I ended up, after they sold everything, including the chandeliers on the first floor, I ended up getting the house. Darn, my timing is way off. But so I did get, after we bought the house, a couple of the pieces of furniture back. Most of the furnishings are not original. I tried to find things that looked original. But the lighting is mostly original. And I think I'm glad for that because I think that's really important to have original lighting if you can do it.
Right. Absolutely. And then tell us about the furniture in the parlor.
The receiving room?
Yeah, the receiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's 3 little gold pieces, a little settee, and 2 little they look French.
Mhm.
And they may have bought them in France because while the house was being built, the family traveled all over Europe and they went to Egypt. And so I think they bought some of their lighting fixtures over there and probably some of their furniture. These little French pieces were sold and a neighbor bought them and I ended up getting them back from her.
And I also love the original woodwork in the home. I know that that was all in place, right? It had
Yes.
not been removed and it was in fairly good condition.
It's in excellent condition. As bad as the rest of the house was, the woodwork was really pristine.
Wow.
And they didn't paint over any woodwork that was not meant to be painted. And I think had the house changed hands over the years, that would have definitely happened because the entry hall has paneling, 8 feet tall of quarter sawn oak. It's pretty dark when you come in. And I'm sure that would have been painted white by if multiple people in the house.
Mhm.
So, but it wasn't chewed up, like if it had become a rooming house,
Right.
which it could have been, but it never was, then a lot of times they throw a lock on every door and
Exactly.
just butcher the wood. So the wood was great. Still is.
And I love the kitchen because you have a Magic Chef stove and some other period appliances. Tell us a little bit about the kitchen. I know that it's also where you spend a lot of your time, right?
Yeah. The stove I had bought at my previous house on Longfellow. A neighbor was moving and had the stove. I bought it from her. and it's a 6-burner, probably a 1935 Magic Chef, and I think it weighs like 600 pounds. But so I already had the stove, so I thought, well, I ought to buy the house to go with the stove.
Of
So
course.
that's why really I bought the house. But so the stove, I use it, it works. They're very simple, and then I found 2 Westinghouse 1930s refrigerators, one from a neighbor and one at an antique store, and they have the compressors on top, and they're porcelain, and they work. I found a pamphlet on eBay for these Westinghouse refrigerators, said they had a 2-year warranty. Now, 90 years later, they're still working.
Oh
So,
my God.
like, you can't do that with today's refrigerators.
Right.
But so, most people that come in on a tour say, do you use this? Does this work? And so, yeah,
Sure.
they all work.
Yeah. Are you still buying things for the home, or are you at a point where you no longer need to buy home decor or
Well, it's sort of an addiction in a way. I mean, see something that's really cool, like, oh my God, I got to get that when you don't need it. So borderline hoarding, not really, but um, I'm not actively really looking for a lot of stuff. But if something special comes up, sure.
yeah. And I should just say, brief note, the home is pristine. It is perfect. I mean, it's so beautiful, and you have done, an incredible job of restoring and preserving a St. Louis treasure, truly. Tell us about the bowling alley.
Well, the bowling alley wasn't on the original blueprints, which I was thrilled. I found the original plans in a drawer in a bedroom, and all the exterior elevations and interior floor plans. So no bowling alley was on that. But then I also found the heating plans that show all the radiator pipes. And that heating plan showed a window at the very end of the bowling alley. So they added this window and they jutted out underneath the terrace 10 feet to make it a 70-foot long lane. So it was added while they were building it, but it wasn't on the plans. But it's all maple, and I think the gutters are, well, they're not, they're cypress, I think, which is a very water-resistant wood. And the lane itself was in really pretty good shape. It needed repair at the end of it where you hit the pins. A lot of water had come in, got that fixed. But the ceilings we had to gut down there because they were, plaster lath, and they were just wanting to fall in. And so it was a disaster zone for quite a while. And then there's rooms off of it that we also fixed up and added a saloon to. Well, they had a saloon, but
Right.
they ripped it out in 1990 and sold it at the auction, and so we put another one in.
And what's cool about is that the piece that came from the Central Library?
Yeah, the bar of the saloon in the back bar came from the downtown library when they were doing their big renovation project some years ago. They parted with this. It was a counter that you'd walk up to get a book, and it ended up at a architectural salvage place, and we found it and repurposed it. So,
And on your third floor, you have your archives and all of the paperwork and information that an owner would just love to know about the house. And that's a project that you took on with the help of someone. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and why you took that on and why you felt it was important to document everything?
well, I was given probably a 5-foot tall stack of photos and letters and just documents related to that family's history and the house by a family member named Mimi, who was Charles Stockstrom's great-granddaughter. Anyway, great-granddaughter. And Mimi said I would love for these to stay with the house. So that's how I got all this. And they sat in cardboard boxes, and they were just going to rot after a while. So I thought it's really amazing to have all this information about this house. So I thought it should be digitized. So I hired a neighbor, Michael Daft, who knew a lot. He was a good photographer, and he knew how to scan and create files and organize all this information. So we set up a little office, and he would come over a couple times a week, and he was retired, and scan in all of these photos. They're all on the website too. So, I mean, over the course of almost 5 years, he would come over, but it wasn't like a full-time job.
Right.
So it was part-time. But so then he said, well, we need to put all this in acid-free paper, all the original photos. And so he'd go to Art Mart and get, boxes and acid-free stuff. So everything's labeled and buttoned up in a way for I don't know what, but there it is.
I think it's wonderful that you did that. I know you're working on the roof on the
Carriage house.
carriage house. How's that project coming along?
Well, the main roof is done. So that was
on the house.
the house.
Yes.
So that they started replacing the red slate roof August 1st, 2023.
Okay.
And then after the house, they jumped on the carriage house. And so it was never a red slate roof. Now it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that. So do you know what the original roof was?
It was black slate. And
Okay.
when we bought it in 1990, the black slate was literally falling off and just kind of breaking off. It was a very inexpensive type of slate.
Oh, okay.
Didn't have a long shelf life. So I had that roof replaced in 2008 with what's called purple slate, which really kind of looked like a dark gray in a way.
Okay.
And then when Chubb, my insurance company, said, oh, you need a new roof, I said, well, I did it in 2008. And anyway, I got the roof replaced, and I upgraded it to red slate to match the house. And they just finished the other day putting all slate on, but now they're working on gutters and downspouts, so they're not quite done.
And can you describe the materials, the exterior materials of the home?
It's a brick home and with terracotta trim. And terracotta is clay-based like a brick, but they make molds to make all these designs. So there's acanthus leaves and columns and lion's heads and ram's horns, and it's extensive, the terracotta on it. And what's amazing to me is it cost $49,500 to build back in 1908. And it took about a year and a half to build it, which I don't understand that. The side railing was missing, the balustrade on the terrace. It started falling apart, I think, before we bought it, and they kind of threw it behind the carriage house. So a lot of the pieces were missing, but there were enough pieces that could be replicated. So I had these wonderful people from City Museum. They made 5 different molds, and so about half of the balustrade's old terracotta, and the other half is new concrete, but you can't tell. I mean, unless you get it with a microscope, but they did a very good job.
They did. You really can't tell. And you also have red granite, right?
Yeah.
On the stairs, the front stairs.
The steps and the kind of the outside of the foundation on the front part of one side is red granite.
It's absolutely beautiful. And I know that this episode is going to inspire people to want to visit. So tell us a little bit about the tours that you offer.
Well, I do public tours. The tour schedule's on the website, magicchefmansion.com. And first tour this year kind of delayed it, June 1st. It's basically the first Saturday of every month till the end of the year. So I'll do, and it's from 2 to 5 p.m., although the times vary later in the year, but it's on the website. And I will do a Halloween tour, get my skeletons out. I'll do a Christmas tour. And then I'll also do a servant tour, which would include the house, the 3rd floor, and the carriage house. Because anything servant, because they used to have servants back in the day.
And no high heels, right?
Right. Spiky high heels. Those are hard on floors.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell us, what has the house meant to you? What has it been like for you to restore it and really make it your life's work?
Well, it's become my life. It's like I'm a housewife. I'm married to the house, but it's a passion because I I love the house, and it's crazy to be living there, but that's what happened. So still, I respect the house, and now how they built it, I don't get it.
Yeah, pretty remarkable and a very special home and
Well, there's so many houses in St. Louis. I
There
mean,
are.
Portland, Westmoreland,
Yeah.
Lindell, Clayton, everywhere, Maplewood. I mean,
we're so lucky, right?
yes.
And it's so important, I think, to preserve that heritage
Yeah.
for future generation.
Yeah, because once it's gone, it's gone. They're not building them like this anymore. And I do think that Ada, the daughter of Charles Stockstrom, saved this house initially by living in it in the 50s and the 60s. If she had, I mean, it was probably starting to need lots of repairs back then, I would guess. But if she sold it then, somebody would have bought it and ripped it down because there was no historic district. That didn't come about till the 70s. And they would have built an ugly apartment building there. It's on a 2-acre lot, so they could have built something kind of big. So she saved it just by being there. So
absolutely. So thank you to her, and thank you to you, Shelley.
You're welcome.
Really loved having you on the show today.
Well, I enjoyed being on it. Thanks for having me.
We'll be right back. This episode is supported by Habitat for Humanity St. Louis Restores. Did you know Habitat for Humanity St. Louis Restores are open to the public? Anyone can shop and donate at area stores for new and used building materials, furniture, and home improvement supplies. Shopping at Habitat for Humanity St. Louis Restores not only supports the community, but also supports building affordable housing right here in St. Louis. To learn about store locations and hours of operation, visit habitatstl.org. Welcome back, everyone, and now it's time for V's Views. Before we wrap up today's episode, I want to mention a few of the events that I'll be attending early on this summer. The Sustainable Backyard Tour is taking place on June 30th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. This is your chance to explore eco-friendly spaces throughout the St. Louis area for free. You'll be able to talk to organic gardeners and beekeepers, pick up tips on stormwater management, renewable energy, and more. Log on to sustainablebackyard.org for more details. I can't wait for the opening of Art and Imagination in Spanish America, 1500 to 1800, highlights from LACMA's collection. The St. Louis Art Museum exhibit opens to the public on June 22nd and features more than 100 works from the Los Angeles County Museum of Art's collection on Spanish colonial art. Don't miss that one. Wouldn't want to leave today's episode without reminding you all about the Magic Chef Mansion tours, which begin once again on June 1st and last throughout the year. This incredible piece of architecture in the city of St. Louis, which, as you heard, Shelley has devoted her life to restoring and preserving, and we are so lucky that she opens it up to the public for these tours. So check out the show notes where we'll have all of this information for you. Thanks for listening to the House of Lou podcast. Our episodes drop on the first Wednesday of every month. Be sure to follow us and share the episodes with your friends. Be in touch. Subscribe to our design and home newsletter at stlmag.com/newsletters and follow along on Instagram at St. Louis Mag. You can follow me at VT Lookbook. If you loved what you heard, show us some love by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you choose to listen. We'll see you next time, and just remember, there's so much to see in St. Louis if you know where to look.